What's up, YouTube? This is going to be our guide on how to use Azelf in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I'll be providing competitive movesets and some fun meme movesets too. If there's a Pokemon you'd like to see me cover, put it below in the comment section. If you enjoy these, help you out, drop a like, and let's get into it. So Azelf, it's funny because this Pokemon hasn't really changed much over the generations. In fact, some of the sets it still uses back then, it uses today. So out of all of the 3 Pixie Pokemon, this is definitely the most glass cannon, you could say, out of all of them. So same ability Levitate, as they all have. And we've got a nice 125 in attack, special attack, and 115 in speed. So it's a very, very versatile Pokemon. Plus, it also has a very expansive status move pool too, so it can work a lot of different ways. So the first set we'll look at here, which, as I said before, hasn't changed all the way back in Gen 4 Wi-Fi battles. I don't know how many of you actually battled back then, but I definitely did a lot. The old Focus Sash Explosion Stealth Throt lead, you know, especially for singles, this really has not changed at all. Exactly the same thing. So it does get quite a few different moves you could actually slot onto a set like this. So it's sort of up to what you need. So Stealth Throt, Taunt, and Explosion seem to be pretty nice, especially if you're playing singles. This is definitely a single set. You know, you're obviously not really so much for doubles. And then you've got an option, like Endeavor's not bad on there. That's not a bad one. It does have like Fire Blast, which is good for any Steel or Bug type Pokemon, mainly Steel though, being a Psychic type. It can have other physical moves too that you could possibly use, maybe like fighting a Drain Punch or something like that could work. So that's definitely a way to run this. So max attack and max speed. So you're sort of setting up Stealth Rocks, or you're taunting an opposing lead that's going to set up entry hazards, right? So it's good for those sort of things. And then you can just go Explosion when you need to. Or you could just put Mystical, not Magical. You could put Mystical Power on there as well. So if you wanted to do a special one, you could do that as well. So there are options to do physical or special. And if you run Naive, you can have a mix set on there as well. So Explosion could still, or Mystical Power could still work on there too. So there are a couple of options to do. As for Terra, Ghost isn't bad because it makes you immune to like extreme speed and stuff, especially when you're on 1 health. And it's good for anyone that wants to come in and use like Rapid Spin when you're if you're putting Stealth Rocks on the field. Someone tries to use Rapid Spin, they're going to get blocked by a Terra Ghost there. So that's not a bad option to go for. Or you could go Terra Normal on there for some more damage on your Explosion. So you've got a couple of options to go for Azelf. But literally, this has not changed at all. These moves here, if it's Explosion, Stealth Rot, Taunt, they haven't changed at all. It's quite funny. It's funny how some Pokemon just stay the same. All right, let's have a look at the next sort of set here. So now we've got more of a sweeping set, and it gets nasty plot like they all do. Earlier on, I did do an Uxie guide too. If you haven't seen that, you should check it out. So we've got nasty plot, Mystical Power, which is a very good combination. 100% chance to boost special attack. It's okay. 70 base power isn't too bad. And after a lot of boost, that's going to be doing a lot of damage. Now, it has the option to hit Steel types with Flamethrower, which is good, or you can go Fire Blast if you want to hit a bit harder, but you do have that accuracy cost as well. And generally when Azelf fails to take something out, it's mostly going to die because its defenses aren't very, very good, And it's going to take a lot of damage, even from unboosted neutral hits. It takes heaps, right? The other move it's got is Dazzling Gleam. That's just for any dark type Pokemon. It's quite good for that. And you can go Terra Fairy too, which is a great defensive and offensive Terra type for it. Life Orb as the item works very, very well. You could do Draining Kiss as well if you want to, but you're going to need quite a few boosts up there. But that can that can definitely work too. I could definitely see that working. Some other coverage moves you might want to consider on there. Say if you don't want to run it as a nasty plot Pokemon, you can also do something like Thunderbolt. That gives you good, because you got mystical power, so you can still do something, right? So this thing has like great coverage, right? It really, really does have great coverage. So it's got virtually something to hit everything for super effectives, which, you know, begs the question. You could definitely run Expert Belt on there, right? Because you're going to get that super effective move. Now, you could still run Fairy. You could also run Stellar on there as well. With such an expansive sort of move pool there, you could definitely take use of Stellar for sure with Expert Belt. They stack really, really nicely too. Very, very nicely. You could do Fire. Fire's not bad either. Just because you got Steel, you know, a Psychic type Pokemon, you got Steel types coming. Say something like Goldengo comes in, you can just cook that off with Fire Blast. Or any bulky Steel Pokemon. I'm trying to think of it, like Registeel or something like that. I'm just doing a random example, but something like that would be really, really good. That would be super good. So it's a good one to go into. Plus, any bug moves would be resisted at the same time as well, like, you know, common U-turn users. Azelf works very, very well on like hyper offensive teams, and also teams that have a lot of like say entry hazards on the field. It works well for them because it can. You know, it's a great clean-up Pokemon. So mid-late game kind of thing when a lot of Pokemon are very takers and damage. You sort of have sussed out what the opponent's Pokemon movesets are. You know what they're capable of, that sort of thing. That's generally the best way to use this. Special attack, EVs, and speed. Timid nature is very fast and it hits hard. So that's good. So you can either run it like either of those ways work really, really good. I don't think there's too much else to explain there. Let's have a look at some double sets now. All right, now this is my first double set. So this one is a sweeper, but it's also an Imprison set. Now, obviously, we're not really going to use Trick Room for Azelf, but we're going to put Imprison on there just to get rid of Trick Room and Dazzling Gleam. Being such a fast Pokemon, it's not going to be benefited at all from having a Trick Room set up from the opponent. So this is a good little way to get rid of Trick Room, any Trick Room Pokemon. You've got Mystical Power to boost the special attack and Dazzling Gleam, which are nice moves there, and Terra Fairy with a Focus Sash. I think Focus Sash works pretty well on it because it just doesn't take hits very well. Now, alternatively, you could, if you don't like Imprison and Trick Room, you could put Detect on, or Detect on there. That could be useful. And then you could have something like, obviously we're not going to have that on there. You could have like, you could run Naive. And then you could have like a physical move on there. You could have Explosion on there. See, that could be a mixed attacker there. So that could be useful. And there are other items you can run on there. You could run like normal gem on there too. So if you want to increase explosion damage because you're not running any physical, I'd change that up to attack too, by the way. Physical EVs on, you could do that too. That's an option. Now this is going to get targeted a lot by like moves like Fake Out and stuff. So Detect is quite good on there because people want to like burn your Focus Sash off and things like that. So that's definitely a good idea to go for there. Choice items could work well on here too, but I'll go over them in a sec. I do have a sort of a choiced set I'll explain there. But yeah, Fairy's good. You could do Terra Normal on there as well for a little bit more damage there. That could also get around a Ghost type. Alternatively, you could just go physical like that. All right, and then you've got Mystical Power to boost a special, Dazzling Gleam, and then just go Explode on anything. So that's another option you could go for there. As Elf, there's no real point running any other EVs in Attack and Speed, or Special Attack and Speed, or Mixed. That's about it, right? You could do Mixed if you wanted to. So like you could... This is more, I'll say this is more dependent on what you want to achieve from Azelf. Do you want Azelf to be able to take out X Pokemon with X move? That's where you need to invest your EVs. So I'm not going to go over every single instances for you, but that's how you just build it. So say you want Azelf to take out a Pokemon with Explosion or Dazzling Gleam, you need to put enough EVs in to do that, right? To take out the common sort of build for it. So that sort of thing. So it can definitely be a mixed special attacker for sure. So that sort of thing. Let's have a look at the next set here. So Azelf could actually run pretty nice as a Choice Band or Choice Specs user. And not only in doubles, it can be run like this in singles too, because the EV spreads are very similar, right? Even in, like, a lot of the time, doubles EV spreads are completely different to singles, right? But there are some Pokemon that EV spreads do not change in both, because simply there's no point putting EVs in other stats. It's not like, Azelf's going to live like a certain attacks for some reason. It becomes way too gimmicky then, right? So let's have a look at this. So U-turn, great. Choice Band, very nice on a singles team or a doubles team. So that will work well with Pokemon like Incineroar, right? With Intimidate or Intimidate Pokemon. Excellent, right? Or Parting Shot Pokemon. Very, very good. Or a screen Pokemon like Alola Ninetales, or Aurora Veil, Alola Ninetales, stuff like that, right? Works very, very well. Explosions is there as sort of a last ditch move with Terra Normal. Get around, you go Terra Normal on a Ghost move, you turn out of there, save the Explosion for later on, you know what I'm saying? And then Drain Punch on a Steel-type Pokemon, really good. Give Azelf some Sustain, because it takes massive damage from everything. And say you've got a Steel, you know they're going to swap a Steel-type in. Bam, Drain Punch, heaps of damage. Then you've got Trick too, so say you're versing something that walls you heavily, or just a general pain in the backside Pokemon. Say you got like a Chansey or a Blissey or a Toxapex. Something annoying as heck, right? Trick them an item and completely shut down their stalling. And then you've still got 3 really good moves to use. You can still go Terra Normal Explosion and do some damage, right? It frees up your moveset and completely messes up the opponent. So that's a good thing too. Alternatively, you can do a special set. Now, for a special set, I'd keep those 2 moves, right? I'd go Mystical Power. Let's try Choice Specs. Because Choice Specs Mystical Power isn't something to be like... it's not bad. There's nothing wrong with it. As long as you've got the counters out the way, like Dark-type Pokemon, right? You can use it. Now, I kept U-turn on there because... you can always run Naive Nature on there, so that way U-turn will at least do its maximum amount of damage, which is still decent. Say if you got like a Pokemon that's really weak to it, a Psychic Pokemon or a quad weakness like Malamar or something, Malamar, like that. I know that's very specific, or like Hooper or something like that, but it'll still do a lot. And then you've got, I would put a Fire move on there. I would put Flamethrower on there. Or Fire Blast is okay, but you've only got a bit of PP, so you have to watch out for pressure Pokemon too. Or, or you miss and stuff like that. It's always risky to do that. Or a stalling Pokemon, they might be able to PP stall you, and then suddenly you're struggling. So Flamethrower will be better. So that's not a bad moveset for coverage. If you don't want U-turn, maybe drop Trick and put Dazzling Gleam on there, or drop U-turn and put Dazzling Gleam on there. So there's that option too for doubles. There you go. That can work. With U-turn, you do lose a little bit of momentum. That's all, but it's still not a bad set for sure. Terra, I'd just do Fairy. That's the best defensive and offensive for these Pokemon. So Terra Fairy or Terra Fire. That's what I would go for there. Nothing wrong with that at all. There's some good double sets there for sure. Offensive. Let's have a look at... I'm going to do some teammates and some counters. And after these, I've got like a couple of fun sets here. All right. I figured that this Pokemon could benefit from weakness policy because it's weak to quite a lot of things. So I thought it gets Endure, which is cool. You've got Draining Kiss. So after Endure, that's going to do some good damage. And, you're probably on 1 health too, so you'll be very susceptible to priority moves. So Draining Kiss will do a very nice job of getting some health back. Fire Blast for any Steel-type Pokemon, and Mystical Power just for boosting your stats. Alternatively, you could have Nasty Plot too, but then you lose like a Psychic move. So kind of gets rid of the point of the set. So speed EVs, special attack, timid nature. Terra Steel on there with levitate. So that could be useful for any bug type moves like U-turn. Alternatively, you could do Terra Ghost if you're worried about extreme speed Dragonite or something like that. Or you could do Terra Fairy or Terra Fire, or even Terra Psychic if you want to try and boost the, boost that mystical power up. So there are a couple of other options there that you might be able to use there for Azelf. It's kind of similar to the Nasty Plot set, but instead of Nasty Plot, we're relying on weakness policy, which is a lot more gimmicky, right, for sure. All right, let's have a look at my last. We've got a PIMPNITE special here, of course, and we're going to have a look at some teammates and some counters and some other thoughts. All right, well, I got a banger for you guys tonight. Let's have a look at this. So I was going to do a Last Resort and Endure set, but I was like, we need to put Metronome on this, right? This is important. So we have got Endure, Weakness Policy, kind of like the other set, but this time we're going to run Last Resort. And Last Resort is a very, very powerful move with, such a good attack stat. So we've got max attack and max speed. And we also got Metronome on there as well. So we have to use Endure to endure the hit, and then Metronome, and then Last Resort. Or you could get rid of Metronome if you wanted to and go Terra Normal. That's an option. But I thought Metronome could be really, really funny on there because you might be able to get like a crazy good move. Like imagine if you got like a Sword Dance or something like that. That'd be really fun. Or you got physical moves as well. You also got a strong physical move. You got like a dark type move to Ghost. And then you got Stellar and Metronome as well. So it gets a boost for all those sort of types of moves. And then you got like Last Resort as your Last Resort. And absolute banger of a set. I can't wait for you guys to try this. It's going to be super, super powerful. But yeah, if you wanted to run a little bit less gimmicky and luck-based, you could just drop Metronome and run Last Resort and Endure with weakness policy. So there you go. And you could do like, I don't know, normal or something like that. That would at least get around ghost types. Or you could go Terra Ghost to get around the extreme speed. Anyway, that's a little bit of a fun set. I hope you guys enjoy that one. Let's have a look at some teammates and counters now. All right. Let's start with some teammates. So in doubles, I quite like Goldengo as a teammate. Don't mind that at all. Plus, you can use Explosion with Goldengo on the field too. So that's gonna be useful for sure. If you're running an Explosion set, that's gonna be super good. We went over the Explosion set already, so that would make a good partner. And also that can deal with Ghost type Pokemon as well. And Bug type Pokemon might struggle against that too because of its Steel typing. So that can definitely be a good Pokemon for sure. Now, you also, I was thinking you could have that, and then you could have something like Landorus. Because Landorus would work well using Earthquake. Say you've got Earthquake, right? That would work well with Levitate. So that can be a good partner. So that's not a bad combination of Pokemon. I mean, Levitate and Earthquake always work pretty well together. So this is a very, very good Pokemon, and they work well together, Levitate and Earthquake. So that could definitely work well there. And it also works well with Goldengo because then you can swap into that for Ice type moves. So they sort of work well as a little mini core there together, I guess you could say. There are other Pokemon which could do the same thing. I'm just giving you an example there. So they work well together as like a core there. Or you could use something like, speaking of core, we got Corviknight. So that could work too. For the same sort of reasons that could work well together there too. So that's some teammates. Some other teammates you could have too are Fluttermane. That's going to work well if you're running you could even put Helping Hand on this too, on the offensive set. The Explosion set's going to work well. Indeedee could work well with Psychic Surge. And you could have Expanding Force if you were to run that, right? So that would be, Expanding Force and Indeedee would work well together. So that's a good combination there. I like that. Now, for any dark type Pokemon, we're weak to that, right? How about Urshifu? That would be good. Even normal Urshifu would be good for getting rid of those counters. That would be good. I'm just trying to think if there's any other good ones that could be, useful there. Like, those sort of things. You sort of get the idea there. There's 1,000 examples I could give. Counters. Dark type Pokemon for sure. Dark type Pokemon are very, very good counters in general. A specific Pokemon that could be a real pain for Azelf would be Umbreon. It's just so tanky as well. The best way to get around, maybe if you had Azelf, you'd have to trick it at like a choice item or something like that to shut Umbreon down. But Umbreon could pretty much tank all of its moves, and foul play will just absolutely annihilate it. By the time you get all your nasty plots up, Umbreon's already destroyed you. So yeah, that's a good counter. Just thinking of some other ones. King Gambit. Yeah, King Gambit. Just thinking that King Gambit's a good counter. Chi-Yu is a good counter as well. Chi-Yu. That would be very, very bad for Azelf. So Chi-Yu's a good counter. And then any Pokemon that have priority moves. Any priority move Pokemon are going to get around Azelf too and hit them really, really hard. So, and there's a lot of them too. And any real powerful, fast Choice Scarf Pokemon. I was going to say Cleaver is a good counter, but any Scarf Pokemon, any entry hazards is not going to like for singles. If you're talking about that, it's not going to like those at all. Mimikyu is also very bad as well for Azelf. With lots of Shadow Sneak, and it's got its disguise up. So there's a ton of examples I could use. I could go on all day about as counters. There's obviously so many of them. So yeah, that's good. Gold Dengo is also a good counter as well. Now that we're talking about Gold Dengo before. So let's have a last little look at its moves and stuff. But you get the general idea. It's a very good glass cannon, physical, special attacker, mix attacker, those sort of things. So we've sort of gone over most of theirs. It can baton pass stats. I think if you're able to do it in your rules you're playing and stuff. But I think it might be better for a bulkier Pokemon like Uxie or even Mesprit to do that. It does the generic Stealth Rot Taunt Explosion set. It's done that for 5 generations now. So we sort of went over that. Can be a good trick Pokemon with a choice item. Excellent. It does get Ally Switch, but that, in my opinion, is not so good on that. It's only good for surprise, really. Unless the opponent... It's going to take lots of damage anyway, so I don't think it's all that good. It can be a fun Imprison set with Trick Room. It can have Helping Hand, it can be a Helping Hand Explosion Pokemon, and it can be a fast Skill Swapper as well. So there's not too many other things that it can actually do there. It hasn't changed all that much is what I'm trying to say. Looking at its special moves, nothing super new here except Dazzling Gleam, Draining Kiss, or Expanding Force. We sort of discussed all that. You might be able to do some flinches with Extra Sentry, but it's very gimmicky. You want to make sure you flinch. Fire Blast / Flamethrower, great for steel types, always has been. Mystical Power is good on that nasty plot set. That's the new sort of stuff. Grass Knot could be good against real heavy Pokemon or annoying stuff like Quagsire, Dondozo. Pokemon that weigh a lot, Groudon if you're playing with legendaries. Stored Power. Look, you might be able to run a gimmicky Stored Power nasty plot set, but you're probably just better off using another move that's got higher base power because you're not going to get the boost up by the time you faint. Thunderbolt. Thunder might be able to work on a rain team, but Thunderbolt's more steady on it. It's not going to miss. Charge Beam's pretty useless with its signature move. And yeah, that's kind of about it for its special moves. Let's have a look at its physicals here. Acrobatics could maybe be useful with Focus Sash. I'm not really sure there. You might be able to do, Terra Flying with Levitate. Drain Punch is always a good move there for any Steel-type Pokemon. That's good. Endeavor's good, not bad on the Focus Sash set, as is Explosion. Facade, you might be able to run that with a Toxic Orb or something with a Trick. I'm just trying to think of some other stuff. It gets all the element. It gets great coverage, so Expert Belt is good on it. Knockoff's great on the physical set too. Some good cut, against any of those ghost type Pokemon. Psycho Cut for a crit set or Zen Headbutt for flinching. They seem alright, but they're not really all that good unless there's like a choice band or something like that for extra damage. It does get fling. You might be able to fling a big nugget for some once-off damage and then be immune, to knockoff's double damage. It does get self-destruct as well, but there's no point using that over explosion. So yeah, there's its physical moves. Ultimately, Azelf runs the same as it always has for many generations, and I think it'll run the same for many other generations. The only real new thing about it, in my opinion, is the ability for it to use Mystical Power, which is a great move on, say, a Nasty Plot set. That's pretty much it. I think we got one more Pixie to go next time, which is Mesprit. Peace out, everyone.